It's another big load. So, now that I'm finally able to go into record stores, I have got a lot of records within the past time that I've updated you guys. I keep saying that I need to take a break, so maybe that'll happen soon, but until then, got a whole bunch of records here to talk to you about. So I'm going from some of my different grabs from different record stores, as well as some of the new stuff. A lot of this is used, so I'm pretty excited to talk to you guys about the used stuff on here. So let's just dive right in. First up, I got one of my favorite Frank Zappa albums, which is Lumpy Gravy. It is experimental, it is avant-garde, it is all over the place. There's a hell of a lot of spoken word on this one, but I love it. The first and last movements on here are just brilliant. I love the fact that it is a curiosity, inconsistent piece, which started out to be a ballet, but probably didn't make it, and that is the perfect way to describe this album. So, yeah, Lumpy Gravy from Frank Zappa. Next up is the soundtrack to the album, the soundtrack album of the Ken Russell film of Litzomania. This one has Rick Wakeman and Roger Daltrey kind of playing off one another. It is bonkers and bananas. I actually need to see the album. I actually need to see the film because I haven't seen it yet. But from what I can see on the back, it is just pure 60s, 70s chaos. So, yeah, it's all about Lutz, and I mean, it's a precursor to Amadeus. And yeah, so Litzmania, it's a great one. It's kind of all over the place and almost inconsistent at times, but there you go. Next is a classic album from Debussy, La Mure. This one feels very much like Holtz, if you're into classic music. I get a lot of that kind of soundscapes and items on here. Not my favorite Debussy items, but it is very tranquil, but also very bombastic at times. Like, this is turn-of-the-century craziness. So, there you go. Debussy. It's good times. Next up, I've got a few Vangelis because I've been getting really into his music lately. I've been listening to quite a bit of his, and so I've got 3 here. The first one is the opera Sauvage. Loving a lot of the stuff on here. I believe the side 1, the hymn, was used for a bunch of different 70s and 80s commercials. So that one gets used quite often, but I love the soundscapes of this one. So really, really fun with Sauvage. Then we have China from him. A lot more of Eastern flair on it. I love the experimentations that he's taking with this one. Very, very fun. Again, I've been diving into this one quite often. But the one that I've been listening to the most is John and Vangelis. This is now the second album of theirs that I have. The Friends of Mr. Cairo. I've been listening to that track, The Friends of Mr. Cairo, the one that goes dun 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 dun. So I keep singing that one over and over and over again. I can't get it out of my head. The album itself is starting to bleed out here, so I probably need to do a little bit of work to preserve that, but the record itself sounds great. So yeah, The Friends of Mr. Cairo. Ta-da! Then, in my attempts of doing a Phil Collins worst to best, that's going to be the next one that will be done probably near the end of the summer. But I'm trying to collect his studio albums, and the first one that I have is No Jacket Required. This one's slowly and fast becoming my favorite album from him. I love Sussudio, but honestly, my favorite track off of this one is Take Me Home. And the fact that he has Peter Gabriel helping him out on there, if the liner notes are to be believed, it does say that within the actual Take Me Home liner notes, if I'm reading it correctly, Peter Gabriel does string, Helen Terry, and PC backing vocals. So that's really, really cool. Unless that's Peter Gabriel, Sting, Helen Perry, and Phil Collins backing vocals. I don't think Peter Gabriel does the string. I think that's Sting. So I think those individuals are helping him out for the backing vocals. And I just love that. You know, I love friends coming together to help them out on this album. So, yeah, no jacket required from Phil Collins. Then, in my attempts to get my favorite Styx album after last summer's worst to best of Styx, I finally have Pieces of 8, the other big album from Styx. And I love the gatefold on here. I haven't actually had a chance to sit down and listen to it. But I hope to listen to it very, very soon. Because it has, you know, some of their best works. It has one of their most recognizable ones of Renegade. But yeah, it's got some really, really fun pieces on here. So there you go. Pieces of 8. Then, this is going to be a little bit of a cross one. This is the last one that I've got from Waxman up here in North Bay. The next couple of them I'm going to be talking about I got from a road trip when I went to Sudbury at Cosmic Dave's. So this is the last one that I got from Waxman, and that is Babe Ruth's Stealing Home. I didn't realize, but I had 2 records from Babe Ruth. I had their first album and their second album. I thought that I only had their first one, and then when I went to do a purge of records that I wasn't listening to anymore, I almost gave away their second album, not realizing that that was their second album. So, Babe Ruth Stealing Home, not necessarily their best, but it's okay. And then, going into the records that I got from Cosmic Dave, we're talking about Babe Ruth, their self-titled work. So it's just Babe Ruth. Again, not their best work. I still think their first album is their best, but I've been listening to a lot of Babe Ruth lately. I've been really digging these guys. Very fun, just kind of, I don't want to say generic, but kind of generic 70s rock. So yeah, it's good stuff. I really like it. So also at Cosmic Dave's, I got a lot of like really, really good stuff while I was there. I'm shocked at what I was able to get there, and at very reasonable prices, because most of the time these guys could have, you know, fetched about $20 to $30 for these used ones, but they were all under 15. So yeah, I might have to go back there whenever I'm in Sudbury. And the second one rather, is Philip Glass, Dance numbers 1 and 3. I love Philip Glass. I love his experimentation. I love his minimalistic approach. Great work from Philip in this one. And yeah, side A is Dance number 1, and side B is Dance number 3. So great work. Then, because I love Camel, I was able to finally find I Can See Your House From Here. This one is a special album for me because it's not available on Spotify, so finding it anywhere is great. A lot of Camel's albums aren't on Spotify, so I've been trying to do a Camel worst to best, but it's so hard for me because a lot of their albums I can't find. So I'm finally so glad to have I Can See Your House From Here and finally able to listen to it. It does have a number of skips on that first side that I'm a little bit saddened about, but I'm still glad to finally have it. So I Can See Your House From Here from Camel. And then this is the first and only time I was able to find this album in a record store. It's not my favorite from the band, but it's Gentle Giant Citizen. It's not their worst, but it's far from their best. And this was the first and only time I was able to see it in a used record store. Now I'm only missing the Missing Piece and Interview, and I'll have all their albums. If I can find Acquiring the Taste, I'll have all of their albums in the original pressing as well. Because Acquiring the Taste I got within their re-release. So yeah, this is a really fun one. I put it on the other day and it's still quite nice. As I mentioned, far and away from their best, but it's still a great record and it's not their worst. The next up is a soundtrack, and I bought this one because my buddy Ian got me into these guys from my Quid Prog Quo podcast. It's my most recent one if you're watching this now. This is from Disaster Piece. It is the soundtrack to It Follows. This is a purely atmospheric horror record. It has all these really fun, very strange sounds and really interesting soundscapes. I'll put this on in like late at night and read a scary story to really get myself, you know, into that kind of outfit. Great album, and I believe, yeah, the actual record itself is kind of a colored album, double colored. So the fact that this wasn't like a ludicrous amount was enough for me to pick it up. because I've really found myself liking Disaster Piece. So there you go. It Follows. Next up are a bunch that I found at Value Village. And Value Village is always a plethora of really, really great records at like a dime a dozen for the price. So I got 2 Hawaiian, which is Farewell, the Hawaiian, the Kilima Hawaiians. It's just Hawaiian background music, honestly, at the end of the day. Same with the Hawaiian wedding songs. This one is hilarious because the actual album only has the listing of the tracks here. On the back, it's a bunch of advertisements for, I guess, that record company. Music for every mood, and each record outside of like that one and that one has a pretty girl on it, so you can see where the demographic that they're trying to get to is on this one. Then this is just an album to replace the one that I have in my collection that's starting to really wear and tear, and that is Golden Avatar, The Change of Heart. It's fine. You know, I like the second side a lot more than the first side. You know, it was kind of at the peak of that, like, 1976. So, yeah, it's exactly what it would sound like. And then, of course, I had to get the master that is Yankovic. Frankie Yankovic plays the all-time greatest waltzes. I haven't had a chance to listen to this one yet, but I'm very looking forward to it. Yeah, I always love to get these oddball records because I honestly love them. And I got Classics Go Disco. I've been really diving deep into like a disco flavor of music. So this is like the next one, and it's got a lot of fun takes on them. Like I already knew a fifth of Beethoven, but there's quite a few other ones, like a sixth of Tchaikovsky, Strauss in Outer Space, Brahms Disco Number 5. So it's just a collection of fun disco-y classical tracks. And then finally, again, I found this at the Value Village. We got Rush, Exit Stage Left, my favorite live album from Rush. This thing sounds incredible, and the fact that I found it at a Value Village is incredible. It was only like $17 for this first pressing. Love this album, and I love all of the live takes of a lot of their songs. It's so energetic, it's so fresh, it's so raw. Brilliant. I love it so much. So, yeah. Exit Stage Left. So, the rest are all new records. These are ones that have come into my collection. And we're going to start off with one of my favorite albums from this year, Daddy's Home from St. Vincent. Beautiful throwback 70s kind of funk, rock of Annie. I love her voice. I love her songwriting ship. She struck gold with this album, and I think it's going to be on so many top 10 album of the year lists. Most likely will be included in my own. Love this album. If you haven't heard it already, please go and check it out. It is brilliant, brilliant music. Next one is Greta Van Fleet, The Battle at Garden's Gate. I've already talked about this album on a quarter notes. I know a lot of people aren't a big fan of Greta Van Fleet. I particularly love them. I love what they're doing, even though it's just a copycat of a lot of like 70s like rock bands. But I love this gatefold. Like if you open this guy up, that is a gorgeous gatefold, and I love that the actual record itself is raised and tactile, so you can run your hand across the gate and across our man here and really get into the music. So I really, really do. I love this album. I think it's a great improvement from an already pretty spectacular band. All right, next one up is Godspeed. You Black Emperor, Godspeed at Empire's End, I think this one is. Yeah, Godspeed at State's End, not Empire's End. State's End. Yeah, I love this album. Not my favorite from them. I think it's a little bit of a step down from their last album, if I'm being perfectly honest. But the more I listen to it, the more I get out of it. So, yeah, and I love the fact that it's, on the one hand, a little bit of a double album, but you have the 2 bigger tracks on the one album. And then you have the 2 smaller tracks that kind of surround it on a smaller album. Kind of like what they did with Don't Bend, Ascend, where, you know, the first 2 are on like the bigger albums, and then the next 2 are on the smaller albums. So, great addition from a Montreal darling band. Love it. And then the last 3 are from live albums. And the first one is I'll actually put these guys down because I don't want to, there we go. The first one is from Devin Townsend. This is his, the Devolution series, number 1. This is his acoustically acclaimed live in Leeds. And what I loved is I did have to, here, I'll open it up so you can see it. There's our main man there, yelling away on the microphone. I had to wait a little bit longer for this one than a lot of other people because I went for the different colored albums. I know. But I'm a sucker when it comes to special editions, so I got the green, almost fluorescent green album on here. I love this album. I think it's one of his best live works because it's just him and the guitar. So you don't have that big flashy production to kind of back everything up. It's really just showcasing the man's talent within his own voice as well as his guitarmanship. Because it is just him, a couple of acoustic guitars, and going through a lot of his run of tracks. Like the fact that it has Let It Roll, Coast, Solar Winds, EA. It's such a great lineup of music on here, and I highly recommend it if you haven't already listened to it. At least give it a spin. I think it's a really, really great live set from Devin. And then the last two are from my man, Peter Gabriel. So, I finally was able to splurge. I already had it in DVD, but this is his Live in Athens from a very, very good year of 1987. And this was, if you've seen the live recording of this, this is when he actually crowd surfed with Lay Your Hands on Me. And I mean, you really have to show like the trust that he had with his own audience in order to do that. Because so many musicians and artists that would have done that today would have been ripped apart. But he trusts his audience to such an extent to allow them to literally lay the hands on him and put him through that. But just the set list on this is perfect. Showcasing a lot of his early stuff. But also, embracing a lot of his new stuff with Don't Give Up, Sledgehammer, In Your Eyes. I'm surprised that Red Rain isn't on here. So this was kind of like just as So was coming out. So yeah, great set list, great musicianship. I love this album and I spin it quite regularly. And finally, rounding us all off, because this is getting quite lengthy and quite long and overblown, this is my favorite live album from Peter Gabriel of all time. This is his Growing Up Live. My favorite live DVD. I've played it into the ground where it's oxidized, out of repair. But yeah, I love this live set. This was the one that really turned me into a diehard Peter Gabriel fan, showcasing his Up album with Here Comes the Flood, Signal to No... Sorry, that's where it starts off with. Blah. Darkness, Signal to Noise, Growing Up, More Than This, and the Barry Williams Show. But also including like fan favorites of, as I mentioned, Here Comes the Flood, Red Rain, Secret World, Sledgehammer. My favorite tracks on here, though, are Blue Sky and Downside Up. Those two tracks on here are just stellar. They really, really are. So, yeah, finally picked this up. So now I have 4 live albums from him and 1 bootleg. And, yeah, it's such a great record. So there you go. Those are all my live, those are the live albums, and those are my albums that I have on my collection. That's all I've got. Whew. Thankfully. Yeah, let me know which one was your favorite. Which one did you like and were surprised with the most? It's just starting to rain now, which is really exciting. I love the rain. It makes my hair go poof, but whatever. Yeah, let me know of your own collection of music that you've gotten so far. Let me know about that by commenting down below. And if you like what you see and you want to help support me, consider donating to my Patreon. I've left the link down below. Even $1 a month goes a long way. Get your name at the end of the credits and a shout out on all of my live streams. And I think that's about it. Thank you all so much for watching. As always, you guys are definitely the best. And until next time, notes out.